Hey guys, it's me, Kenny Monster. So here we are again. This is my second attempt at making this video because the first one wasn't that great, and I suck at public speaking. I aced English, I aced technical writing, but I think I only got like a B in public speaking, and that's because I freak. I'm terrified right now. So, it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was talking with a streamer, bugging them to, hey, come fly the Corsair with me. And they said, well, I would if it stopped. And I threw the idea out there, well, if I make a tutorial for you on how to land the Corsair, would you like that? And they said, yes, go ahead, make a video. So here we are. So I'm going to jump right into this. And we're going to start out by the settings that I use and some of the things you need to know about the plane before getting started. The first thing I'm going to show you right here is I use the bomber version. It has the longest range, plus I just like the markings on the livery. Right here, you see those are bombs. You get two 500-pound or two 1,000-pound bombs that are there by default the first time you load it up. You're going to want to get rid of those because that's going to increase your takeoff roll and it's going to increase your stopping distance. That's brutal on this plane because anyone who knows anything about this plane knows it does not like to stop. So the first thing we're going to do is go up into flight configuration, go under customize, weapons, and just click the X to get rid of the bombs. You can get rid of the bullets if you want. Doesn't make a difference to me. I always leave them there because sometimes I like to have a little fun. So we'll leave that like that. Another thing you want to do, so weight balance and fuel, excuse me. One of my secrets here is I move the center of gravity ahead 6 inches. A lot of people have told me you don't want to do that because it's only going to increase your likelihood of prop striking. That's true. At first, it will. But trust me, you want the 6 inches ahead to get weight on the main gears to help with the braking. And you'll see that when I land it. So there's that. I'm going to discard changes. Now something I want to show you is, let's see, do I have it paused? No. So I need to get rid of the bombs because something else I wanted to show you where I completely derped. And maybe I should have known it. Maybe not. So we'll get rid of the bombs. Those are there by default. Okay, so you know how you go up to developer, reload, current aircraft and art, or just the aircraft, or just the scenery. I did this once, and I was on a really good roll. I was landing the Corsair great, and then one day I was like, I could not stop, and I could not figure out why. And it wasn't until about a week or two later that it dawned on me when I was watching a replay, the bombs were on the plane, and it was staring me right in the face for a week, and I was so oblivious to it, and I couldn't figure out why they were there because I know I took them off. So I'm going to show you what happens. Reload current aircraft and art, and again, maybe I should have known this, maybe you guys already know it. So I reloaded the aircraft, go outside the plane, and voila, the bombs are there again. Major derp on my part. Huge. So let's go up to flight configuration again and take them off. So moral of the story here is every time you fly this plane, every time you load it up, just check and make sure the bombs are off. Save yourself a big headache. And what it's also going to do is it will also reset the center of gravity. Anytime you do that, reload the aircraft and art. So I need to come back and change that to 6 inches. Sorry, that's a little ginger. Okay, so that is set up like that. Now, I'm going to go into the cockpit, turn the engine off before we get started because I'm going to show you some of the gauges, some of the things that helped me, because she's an old bird. We'll get to that little red tag in a minute. Altimeter, we all know how important the altimeter is. Not easy to see now, is it? See it? that's the altimeter. And I'm zoomed in. Okay? Try reading it back here. Try flying 200 miles per hour at cruise or 160 miles per hour on final approach, and you're trying to set your altimeter. Good luck with that. So what I did is I have a button set up on my joystick. See it light up down there in the bottom right corner? Barrel pressure selection 2.9 or 2. I set up this button that I wasn't using. It's in an awkward place. So anytime I want to set my altimeter, I just default it to 2.9 or 2. And then I just count up. I have a key set on my keyboard. So one press of the key moves it 0.1. So if I have to, so let's say the altimeter is 30.00 and I'm at 2.9 or 9 or 2. I just have to press the key 8 times to get it up to 3000, and then my altimeter is perfect. That's going to be a big deal. Maybe you guys have better eyes than me. I don't know. That's just what I do. So there's that aspect. Now, joystick controls. Every joystick's a little different. I started with the 3D Pro. Now I have a VKB, the Mark II, the Gladiator Mark II. It's a little different, and it's also going to, this plane, it makes a difference whether you're at high altitude or low altitude. I do a lot of flying up at flight level 280 and 270 since I've gotten on VATSIM. So I have multiple settings, and for multiple different planes. That's really cool. And I've yet to find one that's perfectly balanced for high altitude and low altitude. What I'm going to be using here is every setting is going to have full linear. You can even do catmull. It changes it a little bit, not a lot, but I make it work here. And so this will give you finer, pretty decent control at low altitude, not so you're not overcorrecting, and then also at high altitude. Another setting I have, this one is really hard when I'm on landing, but it's great for high altitude flying, is I have the cubic set for the mode set for cubic, and you see I added in 2 extra points. So down here, I don't get a lot of input, and that's great for high altitude flying. But my low altitude flying, when I'm coming in on final, it makes it harder to control. So you gotta make a sacrifice. Do you want better handling at lower altitude, higher altitude? It all depends on where you're flying. So that's just my opinion. Everyone's different. Just throwing it out there if you want tips. There's that. Now, this little red thing, I've been told this is a vacuum warning or whatever, and it always happens every time you turn the plane off or you start with engines off. That tag is always there, and you can't start it. See, all my switches are there. I go up to start. Ignition. Oh, okay, well, now it does. Now it did. It doesn't always do that. Sometimes it will not let me start, and now I feel like a complete idiot. See how it comes up there? Well, I swear that there's times it will not let me do it. And I was going to say that I have a button set up so that in the event you can't start it, then I'll show you I have a button set for quick start engines to running. And you can find that in here. So just by typing in ENG, so you get quick start engines to running, and that'll override it. Now again, there's 3 variants of this plane, and I'm using the bomber version. The levers over here, the throttle, prop, mixture, they don't work. I think the racer version lets you move the mixture lever, but it doesn't actually change anything. You can turn on your guns and your bombs if you want, and they do fire. See? There's that. So something now I want to show you. Cowl flaps will close. I have a button set up. I'm going to show you now the flaps, and this is a big deal. So really pay attention to this one, because I learned something by finding a real-life Corsair manual online, and I'll post a link in the description about this. So the Corsair has 4 flap settings. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I had assumed when I first got this, it was, oh, that's flaps 10, 20, 30, and 40 degrees. No, it's not. The Corsair had flaps 20, 30, 40, and 50, and the 50 degrees being for carrier landings. So that was screwing up my landings when I first got this. And there's another thing about this, and you'll find this in real life manual, this is correctly modeled, is that there's a safety feature on the flaps. So you cannot deploy them or lower them at a certain speed so that you don't overstress the airplane. And the first notch being 20 degrees, you cannot deploy this above 200 miles per hour. Because if you've noticed, your airspeed indicator is in miles per hour. So just remember, 200 miles per hour, you cannot deploy above 200 miles per hour, otherwise they will kick back up, and I'll show you that too. The next notch, flaps 20, is going to be, you cannot deploy above 180 miles per hour, I believe. Flaps 40, you cannot deploy above 160 miles per hour. And flaps 50, I know for a fact, is 120 miles per hour. And if you deploy it, you'll actually hear the hydraulics sound like it's deploying, but then it actually kicks back up. And I learned this lesson the hard way I was on final approach, and I gained a little too much speed, and I got over 120, and the flaps kicked in. But here's something about this: it's not going to show the lever. So you notice over here the flap indicator. When the flaps kick up for the safety mechanism, the flap lever will still be in whatever position. So say right now I'm at full flaps 50, and they kick up, the lever will be in the same position down here, but the flaps indicator will be right there. And you'll also want to listen for the hydraulics. And like I said, you will hear this. You want to be very attentive, paying great attention to the sound, and you also want to pay attention to the sound of the engine, which we all should anyway, but this is something I learned the hard way. And so you can see the flaps right there, and I'll take you outside. You're going to have some dust to deal with, but I can't do it when the engine's off. So you see right there, that's full flaps. That's flaps 50, flaps 40, flaps 30, flaps, oops, that's all the way up, but you get the hint. So that's 20, and you hear the hydraulics too. 30, 40, 50. And I don't think I said this at the very beginning. You see right here where it says 611? These are your speed brakes. The Corsair does not have traditional speed brakes on the wings, the flaps that come up on, or flaps that come down on the wings. These little squares here are actually the speed brakes, and it talks about this in the real life manual. There's no speed restriction on these that I'm aware of. It did not say it in the manual. I have been top speed, and at least top speed in the sim, and deployed these to slow down, and I've read in forums other people do the same thing. So this is your speed brakes, and you will see when I drop them, I will reduce speed. That's just something to keep in mind when you're doing pattern work or when you're coming in on final and you drop them. Just so you know, that's where they are. It's a very basic plane. You're not going to get a lot of assists. So just be aware that's how it is. And sorry if I'm forgetting anything. I think this is pretty much what I wanted to talk about with the prep. I'm set up for custom weather right now. So I have it set for 299 or 2. So I just hit the button and you'll hear the clicking. You hear this click right here. You see I don't have differential braking set up. You can do it, but I don't use it because you're going to want to use max braking here. A lot of people, everyone's telling me, you cannot do max braking. Well, trust me, you are. You are going to learn how to balance a plane on its mains if you want to learn how to land the Corsair. All right. And I'm also going to attempt to do this landing on flaps 30, which I hate. You got to come in faster. So I'm going to take off, and I'm actually just going to do a couple patterns around this airport here. And I want you to listen to the sound of the flaps. I'm going to show you how the flaps kick up. I'm going to take off from flaps 50 here, so we can just get the ball rolling on this. And listen for the sound, and what you're going to be listening for. So do you hear when I'm doing it manually? You hear a when it retracts automatically, when that safety mechanism kicks in, it's just a really quick and you'll hear that. And so I want you to listen to it, and I'm going to try to shut up and not talk so you can hear that. That is a big deal. So here we go. And be careful, the P factor is pretty strong. And when you get going, actually you want to tilt it forward a little bit so to get it balanced on its mains, and then kind of counter it a little bit, pulling back just to rate, not like you're taking off, just a little bit of pressure, and she will lift off on her own. Nice little bit of right rudder. I pushed her forward to get her balanced on the mains. Now I'm going to try to brace easily, just put a little bit of back pressure on it to get her to come off on her own. So there you go. So I'm going to keep going at full speed. Pull the gear back. So again, you hear the hydraulics. That's pretty cool. So pay close attention to that. Get a level off here, because what I want to do is I'm going to get over 120. I'm going to stop talking right now. I want you to listen to that quick for the sound of the flaps. And I'll keep my view down here. Watch the flap indicator. Hear that? The little beep, the flap indicator. That was that safety mechanism kicking in and taking me to flaps 40. And there it just went again at flaps 30, because I went over that speed, 160. There it just went again, 180. And that was the last one. 200. So even though my lever is in the full down position, the indicator, my flaps are up. That's a real life safety mechanism. Just be aware of it. If you gain some speed on 5%, it will screw you up. She will raise, and you will end up going around. I probably should have known that. But again, that's in the real life manual. It talks about this stuff. It's a pretty good manual. It's not, you cannot treat it like it's the Bible, because it's a $20 plane. It's not study level. It did model some stuff accurately. It modeled gear as speed brakes. It modeled the safety mechanism on the flaps. That is correct. Other stuff is not there. But these are the big things when it comes to landing, slowing down for landing and on approach. Those are the big things that you need to know. And this is this airport that I took off from. This is MN74. This is the airport from the videos that I interviewed the guy that lives a town over from me, Bill, who has his own private runway, and has that Cessna 170B. This is Wells. This is this town runway where I took off from. Is really close by. It's only like 8 miles, I believe, something like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys over to an airport that's not too far away. It's Albuquerque Airport, Kilo Alpha Echo Lima. And it has 2 runways. It has runway 5/2 which is about 3,000 feet, paved runway, and then there's runway 1735, which is 5,000 feet. Of course, I'm going to land at the more difficult one, 3,000 feet. Why not? I'm the Corsair crazy, and it's the challenge to show you guys what it's going to take to land on that. And keep in mind, that's a paved runway. Stopping is even worse on the turf runway, as you guys have seen in the videos. So I'm just going back here to get up to altitude. So I'm going to want to be 3,500. We're going to follow County Road, Minnesota Highway 22 down to Interstate 90. And I'm just going to do that so you guys can get a sense of how she maneuvers, how I can hold her level. If I were on my other setting that I showed you, my high altitude, I would be bobbling all over the place. I still have the stick back quite a ways, but I'm not bobbling when I let forward. She's very front heavy. Again, I have these center of gravity head 6 inches, so you're gonna have to deal with that. But I'm also not trimming the plane. When I'm on approach, I don't like the trim. I've never liked this plane, the trim characteristics. I've just never gotten along with it. I got into arguments with people about it. It's not great. The Tucano trim is all wonderful. The Talon, when I up to Mach 2, trims out wonderful. The Corsair, I can never get it perfectly trimmed, and that's why I have that other setting as fine as I do. So at high altitude, I'm just handling, because you guys know I do not use autopilot. What is autopilot? I don't know the definition of the word. I hand fly everything. So level off here at 3,500, and I'm going to try to stay at 160. It's not my favorite speed. The cruise altitude specifications is 215. I think she handles great at 180 without trimming too much. 160, you're still pulling back. Personal preference, whatever you want to do. It's really just a plane to mess around. And, I do a lot more than what other people would do. I've flown it up to 1,300 miles. I've hand-flown from a couple times from Dallas up to Minneapolis, Houston up to Minneapolis. It's just what I do. I'm of course crazy. So I've gained some speed here. The sheep does move. Sorry guys, my vision is not the best. So that's something to take into consideration. If you don't have the best vision, and you don't want to risk dropping $20, risk looking stupid, maybe don't buy it or don't fly it, but don't worry about looking stupid, because anyone who has this plane has had troubles with it. It just is what it is. Keep in mind, it's a $20 plane, it's not study level. It's just for fun, but there's a level of gratification if you can master it. It's really fun. You're just going to have to do a lot of experimenting. You're going to do a lot of runway overruns. You're going to do a lot of prop strikes just to find that sweet spot. And believe me, I still have not found a sweet spot. I'm not happy with the controls. I just found a way to make it work. This over here is the town where I live. And the white, that's the sewage treatment plant. It's actually a snow texture. That's the best I can make it look good. In the picture, the satellite imagery, it was foamed over. That's what it is. There's a lot of runways. I've noticed, man, all across this country, a lot of these turf runways are next to drainage ditches, and that makes it seem really hard. A lot of hours. So, I'm sorry, I'm not doing a very good job here of walking and chewing gum at the same time. I had the same problem in the last video. I'm really sorry about this. I don't know how you streamers do it. You're flying, you're chat, talking. I don't know how you do it. Hats off to you guys. This is not gonna work for me. Trust me, I do better when I'm not recording. Like I said, I totally bombed at public speaking. I loved choir when I was in middle school and high school, but it's 2 times that my teacher asked me to do a solo. Both times I did it, I freaked, my legs were trembling. I couldn't see it. I still sang, but I was trembling. It's embarrassing. So, not to make excuses. Excuses are like assholes. Everyone's got one. I know. I shouldn't have made this video. Anyway, I'm trying to stay at 160. And also, again, I'm not trimming. If I really wanted to trim, I could. But I'm not. I want to show what it's like to hand fly. Some of the consequences. Like, I'm barely moving the stick with that setting that I have. And she is moving up. senses, but I'm also, again, pulling back because I'm not at full power. When you get to full power, when you're at cruise speed of 215, then you actually have to start pitching it down. But I actually don't do this much flying anymore. I did when I first got it. I was doing legs. I came up with flight plans across the state of Minnesota, and I landed every airport along the way. And so my average legs were 10 to 20 miles. And so I'd be doing 10 to 12 landings in one sitting, where then I got a bat sim, and now I'm flying 500 to 1,000 miles, and I'm doing one landing a day on average at most. So I've taken a beating on that. So which is why I kind of had to learn how to refly this all over again. And we haven't even gotten to bush flying yet. So here we're coming up on Interstate 90. And actually, that's not a 4-lane road. I should specify Highway 22. That's a 2-lane road. It's a Minnesota State Highway, and it's railroad tracks. If you guys saw the train, sorry. So Alberley is not very far, and a 10,000 lake train is actually like 11,000 lakes in Minnesota. But hey, who's counting? Don't try to navigate by the lakes in Minnesota. And sorry, you're gonna hear this smacking, my tongue smacking. I don't know why I do it. I did not realize I did this until I made my very first video with the Schweizer. And I'm aware of it. I do my best not to. I've got a boom mic, it's got a filter on it, but it's still mixed up. I don't hear it while I'm talking. If you guys don't hear it, I'm really, really sorry. It's going to be annoying. I'm sorry. So I know the airport's going to be coming up to my left. And I don't have any keys set up to zoom in. I don't have the binoculars. You know, when I'm doing flying like this, it's like, I just follow the IFR, I follow roads and rivers and through landmarks, and I just don't know the area. So here I'm gaining a little bit of altitude there, and I don't want to. But at least I'm maintaining 160 miles per hour. So it's really not that bad. I mean, you get used to it. It also depends on if you're the type of person, do you leave your arm up, leave it free floating, or you like rest your elbow on the armrest on your chair or on your desk. You know, that kind of, we all have these little subtleties with hand movements. At least I do. I'm well aware. I will fully admit that I have these stupid little things. I've also said I've got a little bit of nerve damage on my right side. So my right, and I'm not able to fly with my left, that's cannot do. So I'm asking you guys to cut me a little bit of slack on that one. It makes it hard, it makes it hard, trust me. And so I hope you guys can do better and use this video to Untitled Corsair. So you see that's the airport up there to the left. So we're going to enter the left-hand pattern. I'm going to go ahead and descend down to 2,500. The altitude here is about 1,300. So my approach is going to want to be at about 1,800. Personally, I do not like coming in that low. With this plane, I like coming in higher, at least 1,000 feet on runways like this. Even in large airports, but you can't always abide by that because they have the approach procedures and you got to abide by the altitude restrictions. And even though I'm within range, the controllers will call me up and say, hey, you're too high, go around. And no, it's actually where I want to be. It's just one of those things. Gotta love the Corsair. Now I could really just cut the throttle and say, trying to do this as smooth as possible. I've seen Swiftstreamers that have very smooth hands, and there's no bobble whatsoever, and I do not know how you guys do it. And not only that, you guys are walking and chewing on the same time, streaming, not screwing up. I am right now. I do not know how you guys do it. So, you see right there, the trees, that's at the end of runway 1735, they actually grow auto entries growth in the runway. But the one that's in the open, that's the one we're shooting. And I'm sorry, it's 5, 2, 3. Did I say 6, 2, 3? I think. Sorry if I said that. So anyway, like I said, I want my altitude to be 1,800. I'm gonna drop the gear right now, and you're gonna see. I'm gonna drop down on the speed here. I guess I'm gonna drop it because most levels off. But if you do this, if you're coming in hot and you want to try to salvage a landing, you drop the gear and it will slow you down. But just in general, see how much it's dropping now. So now I can drop the first notch of flaps. It's flaps 20, flaps 1, flaps 2, and 30 degrees. And I'm going to attempt to do this on a 30 flaps 2 with 30 degrees of flaps, which I do not like doing. I hate landing flaps 30 with this plane because you got to come in hotter, and that increases your braking distance. I always like to come in flaps 50 every chance I get, even at the large airports, because it just makes it that much easier to control with braking, less likely to bounce because you can come in with less speed. Don't worry about bouncing with this, guys. I bounce a lot, I crash, I land hard a lot. Keep in mind, this is a carrier plane. I don't know the max capability that this plane can land, but I have read that F-18s, and I've said this in stream chats, F-18s routinely land minus 800 feet per minute. If that's what they routinely land at, well, how much do you think they are built to take from max force before braking? Right? You got to believe it's going to be about 3 times that. So when I land minus 800 with this thing, it says I'm wasted, but there's no damage to it. I've landed over minus 900, and I've still taxied to the gate. I don't worry about stuff like that. Some of you guys take this landing thing too seriously, and I know I razz people, but I do it to get you to relax, because it doesn't mean anything. Even the real-life pilots have said it doesn't mean anything. Just relax, have fun. This is a sim. We have distractions all around us. You know, like I said a couple times now already, I'm completely distracted. I'm out of my element. You guys that are streamers, I completely understand what you're going through, but it's a psychological test, and so I razz you guys to like, just relax, get over it, don't take it so seriously, because no one expects you to butter it, right? And the more you try to butter it, the worse you're going to be. I can tell you this, since when I got that landing rate meter, my landings got way worse. I mean, I was actually doing really good before I got it, but I keep it because I want to prove to myself, okay, I can have this in here and not get phased by it. Right? So that's just me. So please, guys, don't get all offended when I'm razzing, because I'm an equal opportunity offender. I razz everyone. We all do. So I take no shame in saying that I'm landing hard. I've posted pictures, I've posted videos. It happens. Deal with it. Just have fun. Now, one thing here, what I'm doing is, I forgot to tell you this earlier, is I like to make angled approaches. Just like in real life, when in the carrier landings, they will circle around in order to have visual. That's why I come in with angled approaches, 30 to 45 degrees. As you can see, that's a big arse nose up there. And so I'm going to come in to the right of the runway, far enough away that I can do a dive. This is going to sound counterintuitive, because I've gotten into this with a few people that, yes, you're going to pick up speed, but you want to come in at a speed that's manageable, knowing you're going to be picking up speed, and you do that so you don't stalk. Is what I'm going to do is a power off landing. Now, the reason I'm going to do a power off landing, it's how I found it easiest to stop the plane, and I also continue to do it this way because when I met with Bill, that real-life pilot who has almost 50 years experience, I was asking him for pointers on this, telling him that the sim is not like real life. You don't get braking distance. I have to do what I have to do, and he had told me that it's not a bad idea what I'm doing, because I can always go around. He thought that what I'm doing is better than trying to come in straight and end up being too low. So that validated my approach to this. Argue with me all you want. I don't care. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Everyone's got to find their own way to make this work. And I think I just exposed another issue that that I have, and that's visuals. I am horrible at maintaining visual. Oh, I think that's it. There, I think. Sorry guys, nope, there it is. Sorry, I'm not kidding when I say that my eyes, I do struggle with TVs with depth of perception. I have 20/20 vision. I'm not going to get into the whole gist of it. It's just that TVs and stuff, everything two-dimensional, it's not the same even when I have 20/20s. And that's something to keep in mind too in the flight sim community. You never know when someone might have issues, so yes, we razz each other, but take it in good humor. I mean, we never know when someone might have it. I don't care. I razz myself all the time. Nothing you guys can say is going to be harder on me than how hard I am on myself. Okay, so right now I'm at 500 AGL. You see the runway I'm coming in, so it's runway 5. Right now I'm about only 20 degrees off. I'd like to get more of an angle. I'm at 110 on flaps 30. I could come in slower. And actually, I probably would have liked to come in slower. But you gotta be careful on flaps 30, you don't stall. That's gonna be your biggest enemy, because again, the reason I'm doing the 500 feet AGL so I can do this dive. And again, personally, I like to do this 1,000 feet AGL, right? So now I killed the power. No tree trimming. You guys know the rules. The rules of the hooligans. I'm trying not to float. I hate floating, but it just happens, right? 474, I don't give a flying fuck about 474. You hear the clicking? That's me. It's sort of like ABS. I'm letting it go forward, and then when I feel it like it's going too far, and I'm actually kind of helping it out at first by pushing the stick forward, helping it out a little bit to get it over that initial hump. You don't want to pull back, because then it's going to want to actually lift off a little bit. And it's going to say in the real life manual, I'm on flaps 30, but it'll say at flaps 50 you cannot get the tail down until you get the speed down. This is why I don't like doing flaps 30. Now I'm more experienced with this now than I was before. So I've gotten used to it, but I can't tell you guys how many times I prop struck. It's never going to be pretty, at least not for me. Like I said, I've got my own issues. I don't have the most steady of hands. You guys might. If it looks better, great. I really don't care. I'm perfectly happy with that. This was a flaps 30 landing. I don't like it. You're more prone to do it because you're coming in faster. I don't have an easy time seeing the runway. It's worse at night. This is actually pretty good for stopping distance. This is a 3,000 foot paved runway. So I'm gonna rewind it just so you guys can see my approach. And I think for me it always feels like the floating is exaggerated from the cockpit view. So you can see I'm coming in. I've got my dive. No tree trimming. I might have to go back and show you how close I came. See, it felt like I'm floating. I did for a little bit, but I was also coming down. That's really hard. And I'm going to say this right now. Hats off to Torbinator 97, I think are the numbers. Torbs, of all the streamers I've watched, is like the most consistent and the best at having that one fluid motion when it comes to flaring and touching down to where there's like minimal flow. The most consistent. I don't know how he does it. He must have like the best set of eyes, the most steady hand. I wish I could do it like him. I can't. And that's why I just accepted this plane is what it is, and you guys need to accept it too. Any plane you have. I mean, it's a sim. Watch me come in here. I went a little bit further down than I wanted to, but I also knew this is a 3,000 foot paved runway. I have plenty of room. If this were a turf runway, it'd be a different story. I'd want to be down at threshold. Even paved runways, I still want to be down at threshold. I've gotten in arguments with people about this because, well, hey, what if you stall? Well, that's why I do the dive. I'm carrying enough speed, but and it's flying me up. There's a reason I do everything that I do. Okay? It is. So that's the flaps 30 landing. And now I'm going to take it out of replay mode. I'm going to do a quick pattern here, and I'm going to do it at flaps 50, how I really like to do it. Right, so I'm putting my flaps down to flaps 50. And it's probably just go up to the run-up pad here and turn around. I find it a lot easier to do at flaps 50. It's going to be a little bit more sensitive in the controls because you're going slower, but just overall in general, it's easier. Now keep in mind too, like I said, in the manual, it even says when you're at flaps 50, you cannot get the tail down. So the idea of a 3-point landing, and I asked Bill about this too, about, well, do you do a 3-point landing? Did you land on the mains? He said he lands on the mains. So I'm not trying to do a 3-point landing, and even if you do, you're just going to bounce, because at flaps 50, you cannot keep the tail on the ground at the speeds we're coming in. You have to let the speed drop. Now again, this is here. Now when I do a turf landing, it's a different story on how my approach to landings on that. That's not going to be in this video. So give it full throttle. Center line is just a guide. I keep saying it, guys. It's just a guide. See, I leaned it ahead a little too far forward there. Pushed it forward, so I had to pull it back to get the lift. Now, flaps 50, she's really going to climb. Not kidding. She will climb. But I'm also going slower. And I didn't take you through this on flaps 30, because if you land flaps 30, you don't really want to be at the stall horn level. I actually, at this altitude, I can get it down to mid-80s with no wind. And I'm going to say, if I didn't say this at the beginning, do this with no wind. The worst landing you will ever do with the Corsair is no wind. It sucks. I'd rather have a 20 or 30 mile per hour crosswind. I can work with that. No wind is brutal. So just deal with it. And if you practice enough with this, I think you'll understand what I mean by that. Something about the settings too. I'm better at this one, the high altitude setting where I had a really shallow curve. She would roll easy, and at low speeds she does. You have the P factor. Again, I'm not trimming it. She will roll. So again, it's all about visual references. When I made my turn, I said I was not at the angle I wanted to be. I didn't have my visual reference right. So when you're circling the runway, you find the runway, you circle around it, find a visual reference. Right here, I know for a fact, this road in front of me is Interstate 5. Over there is Interstate 90. There. Sorry. It's late. Nervous. Sorry. So, ideally, I'd like to come in at a 45-degree angle, and I did not do that. I said I was about a 20-degree angle. I wasn't happy with that, but hey, I made it work. And I know people will say, well, that's too much of an angle. You will bleed off speed, yes. You will have to correct, yes. But for visual purposes, and it has more to do with the turf runways than it does, more than it does like runways like this. But I've just got myself in the habit of doing it the same everywhere as much as possible, so I don't lose that rhythm. And don't worry about power either. If you start losing altitude, you can always give her more gas. She will pull herself up. See, I'm at full idle right now. I just want to lead some down, get at a better speed. It should be on the other side of the interstate right now, but I'm not. But you know what? I'm not worried because I'm going slower. 82 is a number you should keep in mind. Flaps 50, 82 miles per hour is the speed at which you can maintain level flight and maybe even gain a little bit of altitude. Now this is too much of an angle. I admit this time I should have been further back so I wasn't turning this close to the runway. See there, I gave her an idle. Too early, and there I just let her drop. Once you feel like that runway is there, and then there comes a point where you can just start, then you can slam the tail, and that, again, that's more to do with the turf landings than this. But I'm completely happy with this, given all the, you know, how long did I float, given my vision problems, and the capabilities of the plane, the stuff that's right or not right. I'm completely happy with this. I don't care if you guys make fun of me, I'll laugh at this too. It's a carrier plane. This thing was meant to land hard. This is actually a soft landing. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the replay mode here. Not the prettiest approach, but you can see I was able to save it. I hate going around. It takes forever. I'm impatient. I see a runway, I just want to go in and land. And I razz other people when they say they're going to toga. I'm like, why? Go in. You can save it. So now here I'm actually pitched up a little bit, and that's what happens when you're at 82 miles per hour. You can hold it at level flight. I wasn't dropping altitude. But again, this is at 0 wind. I'm not worried about coming in high like this because there's times you get out in the bush, you actually do have to come in this high because you got trees, your strip's in a valley, and that's a little turf or dirt strip. It's only 2,000 feet. You know, try to stop it there when the minimum requirements for this thing are 2,300. See, I don't think I floated as bad. Center line's just a guide. I don't care. But you see my stopping distance. Keeping that tail up as long as I can to keep the weight on the mains, and that's why I have that center of gravity head 6 inches, is to get the weight on the mains to get the braking effect. I guarantee you, if you guys leave it at 0 and you try to do this, it's going to be different. And I actually encourage you guys to try it, do it at 0 each time. Even move the center of gravity back 6 inches, just to get a feel for the handling of it. Because I did a lot of experimenting with different numbers to find out what was the sweet spot. So I was coming at the angle. I flared too early, but I'm still descending. It's not like I floated. I should be on the other side. I didn't float halfway down the runway trying to get a -5. I just took her down. I stuck it. I have said many times in chat, I've defended Ryanair and other airlines for slamming it down. That is a textbook landing, like what Torbs does. You don't want to land it hard. You want to get that one fluid motion without floating. It looked like I floated in the cockpit. Here it wasn't. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm not a real world pilot. I know formal training, but the way I look at it is, if you guys got to float, then you never had control of the aircraft to begin with. Then you should have towed it, right? Because if you did it right, you were in complete control of the aircraft. You hit your spot, you flared at the right spot, you had your descent, you were descending at the rate that you wanted, and you nailed it. That's not easy. I mean, that's why pilots, you got to be good, right? They just don't let anyone fly a plane, right? That's why I'm not a pilot. That's why we're sim pilots, right? It's not easy. Moral of the story, again, just relax. This is fun. Don't worry about the Corsair and not stopping, prop striking. Get over it. Get over yourselves. We all have those single-digit landings. We all have the hard landings. Okay, I am not ashamed to admit I've landed 800 feet, like I said earlier, but didn't break anything on the plane. I taxied to the gate, all good. I survived, right? Tomorrow's another day. The next landing's another landing. You can always get them next time. It's not going to be perfect. Develop that mentality with the Corsair. That's why I'm very easygoing about the landings. Yes, I razz you, but like I said, it's psychological warfare. We got to get people over the hump with the landing. It's never going to be pretty. If you cannot develop that mentality, then no, you will not survive the Corsair. This thing will chew you up and spit you out alive. It will kill you every time. You will be your own worst enemy. Don't worry about it, guys. There's nothing you can do that I haven't done already, and I'm still here. Right? I'm still alive, still flying it, still landing it. So I'm gonna stop rambling. I hope this was helpful. Again, this was a 3,000 foot paved runway. If you guys do this, I recommend you start on about a 6,000 foot runway on flaps 30, if that's what you insist on using. Again, I don't like using it on any length, but start on a 6,000 footer and then slowly work your way down. Find a 4,000 foot runway. Find a 3,000 like this. Let me give you an example. So this airport in particular, Kilo Alpha Echo Lima, has a 5,000 foot runway and a 3,000 foot runway. Start here. You can start on the long runway, then go to the shorter one. You got Mankato, which is close by, Kilo Mike, Kilo Tango. That's got a 6,000 and a 4,000 foot runway. Start on the long one, work your way down to the short one. Now, if you guys want to see a more detailed video how I do the turf ones, because I've got videos, but I didn't have audio. If you guys want more detail on how to do those, on how I do those, I'll make them. Let me know in the comments. Again, none of my videos are monetized. They never will be. So, likes doesn't make a difference to me. I'm never gonna make money off of it. This is just to get the videos to you guys. If you want to see more, let me know. I don't mind looking like the fool. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy.